Welcome, everybody, to the other side of the glass, the Facebook Live series brought to you by us, the Just Add Bourbon podcast. My name is Jimmy Don Kerr.
I'm Brad Broaddus.
I'm J.D. Dameron.
And it's another beautiful Thursday evening here in the hills of Eastern Kentucky. And we've got a very special guest tonight, Jack Pilgrim, writer from KSR. Jack, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. What's going on?
Not much, man. So, Jack, tell us a little bit about yourself, brother. Where are you from?
I am from Louisville, Kentucky. I went to high school at Eastern High School in Louisville. Graduated from the University of Kentucky in 2015. Got hired I started at KSR part-time my sophomore year, I believe. Kind of worked my way up the totem pole, and then good old Matt Jones hired me full-time. I guess it was December of my senior year, and then kind of juggled both, leaving, and then that's been my full-time job ever since.
Cool. So Jack and I met in a weird way. My buddy Clayton and I had went to, we have season tickets for football, and we were down there, and KS Bar had just opened, and it was packed. I mean, slammed. Like, literally, you walked in there, and we stood for probably 2.5 hours just drinking beers, watching football, and we finally got a table. And we got a table, and it was right over by the door, and Wells and I sit down, and I see this guy walking across with this big plate of nachos, and him and his lady are sitting here in the windowsill going to try to eat this plate of nachos. And I was like, dude, you can sit with us. It's fine. You can sit down here and eat. And he said, well, cool, man. Appreciate it. So we get to talking, and he says, my name's Jack Pilgrim. And I said, you write for KSR? And he was like, yeah, that's me, Jack Pilgrim. So that's actually how I met Jack. And I thought it was just one of those weird ways you meet people.
Yeah. In a crazy small world, just, you'd think me working there, I'd be able to get a, table of my own, but I appreciate the gesture for sure.
Yeah. So Jack, it's every guy's probably dream to be a sports writer, right? Or to be on the radio, or to just write about sports in general. Like, how did you get started down that path with your career?
So I started writing about sports, I believe I was in middle school. I think I was like 11 years old, maybe even like 6th or 7th grade. And I actually started a kind of an anonymous Twitter account. I think it was like Recruit Kentucky or something like that. And I didn't put my name attached to it because I was 11 years old, 12 years old. Who the heck's going to care about what a middle schooler has to say about anything? So that's where I got started. I actually started following, high school football recruits, and I started talking to them, and this random website kind of took a chance on me, and I would write these interviews with them. And nobody to this day ever knew that I was actually a 12-year-old kid in middle school. So that's where I got started there. It was just kind of wanted to take a chance on myself, fell in love with it. I've been a diehard UK fan my whole life. So wanted to do that just kind of, for fun in middle school. And then I actually, when I got to college, I started out as a special education major. That was my first passion. Love working with kids with special needs and, do Special Olympic stuff. And that was what I wanted to do originally. And then, my passion for writing has always been there. My passion for UK sports has always been there. That's when KSR took a chance on me as an intern, then part-time. And it kind of they made the decision for me to switch over to broadcast journalism and get into that realm. So yeah, my life could have gone a completely different direction, but I'm thankful to be where I am right now for sure.
What was it like? I know in Louisville, there's a big UK fan base. I know that.
Yep.
So that kind of doesn't make sense to me, though, because with the rivalry, being what it is. So what was it like being in Louisville growing up, a UK sports fan?
Well, that's kind of where the rivalry, the passion for the rivalry kind of came from for me. I mean, you read KSR, you see that we're willing to make fun of U of L as much as we can. I mean, that's half the job, honestly. So, so that kind of passion for that rivalry started back then. But my sister actually went to UK. She's the reason my brother went to U of L. But she was the first one in, my immediate family to go to college and me witness it and be a part of it. So she kind of took me along, and I'd be able to go see her on campus. I'd spend the night with her every once in a while, big sister, little brother type thing. And so she kind of made me fall in love with campus from afar way back when I was, just a little kid. So she's the reason. I mean, I wonder if she didn't go to UK and I just kind of did the same thing with my brother, if that would have ended up going a different route. But I'm very glad that I ended up on the right side of the rivalry for sure.
Yeah, we're glad you ended up on the light side, and not with the dark.
Absolutely.
Brad, did you have a question?
Was there anybody coming up, any writers, sportscasters, anybody like that you kind of looked up to or kind of modeled your writing after?
Man, that's a really good question. Not specifically. I'm one of those guys that I kind of wanted to take a little bit of everything. I wanted to be able to use my voice. I like the way some writers use their voice, in their writing. I could kind of hear them talk through their writing, and I wanted to make sure that whenever I write long features and stuff like that people could hear my voice as opposed to just words on a paper. I wanted it to actually sound like it's coming from me. So that was kind of one of the main things that I looked at. But in terms of individual guys, I got to admit, Matt Jones was the first kind of superstar Kentucky media guy that I kind of looked up to and was like, oh man, if this random guy from Eastern Kentucky can make a living off of, talking about sports and writing about sports and going to UK games, maybe there's something in that for me. So that, in the media field, probably that, but in terms of journalists and just actual sports writers, there's just so many that I just really pick and choose little things from that, I'd kind of like a basketball player, you look at it. Oh, I like his passing ability. I like his court vision. I like his shooting. You kind of take little things from each player. And that's kind of somewhat what I did with my writing, and I guess with podcasting and whatever radio opportunities I get, stuff like that.
So I'm going to jump right into this thing. How terrible was Joker Phillips?
Well, I was a fan. I never got to interact with him. I wasn't a media member way back then. So I didn't get to personally see it, but me sitting where I remember I was actually in class one time. I think it was the 40-0. What was it? The Vandy game, I think.
That
last year. And I think that was my senior year of high school, maybe. I think, Matt, time's irrelevant during quarantine. I don't even know what day of the week it is at this point. But I was in yearbook, and it was a Saturday at noon, and I had to be in school for whatever reason. I was streaming that on the computer. And I remember my teacher came over to me and was like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you putting yourself through this? I watched every single minute of that horrible, just terrible game, watched every single second of it. And I think that was kind of that was a moment for me where I was like, you know what? Maybe I am like too invested in this stuff. Maybe this isn't the route I need to go down. But again, I'm glad I stuck with it.
Look, man, I remember that game very well because I was there, and we had been in Louisville. We had taken our daughter. We'd taken our daughter to a Justin Bieber concert. That's for a different podcast, boys. I see what you're looking at right now.
You went by yourself.
That's true.
To the concert.
Baby.
Oh, yes, that was all me right there.
He totally misphrased that question.
I've got some good stories about that sometime that I will tell on the podcast. But so anyway, my wife, we're coming from Louisville, and the guy that I go to the games with, the guy Clayton, we've always gone to the games together. So he went on out to the stadium. We were just going to tailgate. So I told Amy, I said, well, you'll probably just have to take me because we park in the green lot. And I said, you'll probably have to just take me down Cooper and then drop me off somewhere there and then venture out. As we kept getting closer to the stadium, there was nobody there. It was insane. I thought, man, is it Sunday? Have I missed the game? I got all Biebered out and missed the game. But I roll up.
Bieber fever. That does stuff to you.
What are you going to do? And Carly Rae Jepsen. I ain't going to lie.
There you go. Call me maybe.
Yes, sir. So we pull right up to the front door, and I go get with Wells, and I go in, and you could have said everybody in that stadium in one section. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. And I sat there and watched the whole stinking game, the whole 40-0 beatdown. But compare that, because that's a great question. So now, you're talking about where we were then and looking at where we are now with Stoops. like I was listening to Tom Leach this morning, and they were talking about how deep we are at every position. Can talk a little bit about the job that Stoops has done, man. I mean, actually building us a real football team.
Well, I remember when Stoops first came to Kentucky, he hired Neil Brown as his offensive coordinator, and I remember, me kind of just being brand new in all this. That's when I did start covering UK sports, and I remember my young self thinking, oh, the Florida State had the number 2 defense under Mark Stoops, and Neil Brown, his at Texas Tech, he was an offensive guru, putting up 500 yards a game. Like, these two are going to be a match made in heaven. This next year, UK is going to win 7 games, 8 games, something. Just me being a young stupid kid, not knowing anything about it, and then realizing, oh, they ended up winning 2 games because you saw the talent that Joker Phillips left UK, and it was no better than an FCS school. So that from that point, I remember I was at that WKU game in Bowling Green, and I remember I was so excited. I was like, man, you guys just got to believe me. This team's going to be good. This team's going to be good. I talked my mom and stepdad into buying tickets and taking us all the way down there, and I was like, just trust me, they're going to be good. They're going to be good. They ended up losing to Bobby Petrino and WKU, and I remember I was like, again, why am I doing this? And then, just to see from that point, that horrible feeling after that WKU loss to open his career at Kentucky. And then just, the 2018 year, even before that Steven Johnson year, the Louisville game, those individual, even started the Bud Dupree, South Carolina, pick six, the blackout. You look at those individual moments that we just didn't get under Joker Phillips, and I haven't seen personally in my lifetime. Just the growth from day one to today. You look up and down the recruiting classes. We're competing with the best of the best. It's not competing with the Toledos and Tulanes of the world. We're fighting off Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan. Those big name schools for these big name recruits. So it's making my job a hell of a lot easier for sure.
And funner.
Yeah.
For sure. So what is, I know obviously recruiting is the right answer, but what has he done that he's now competing with the Michigans and the Ohio States and the Alabamas for these recruits that the previous guys weren't doing? Because as far as I could tell, with Mitch Barnhart, money's never been the issue as far as recruiting goes. So what is it that Stoops does that these other guys didn't do?
Well, I think it boils down to, on top of X's and O's and, personnel, that kind of stuff, it boils down to getting guys like Vince Marrow to stick around, getting guys like John Schlarman, getting guys that are family-oriented individuals. I've talked to recruits, and one of my really good friends is actually Mike Edwards. I'm a big Patriots fan, so he makes fun of me about he's with the Buccaneers right now, that he stole Tom Brady indirectly, and he's going to be going heads up with Rob Gronkowski every day in practice. So that's fun. But those type of guys have told me in the past, like, man, Vince Marrow is a guy that you could be as, wanting to transfer, just as down in the dumps about your time at Kentucky or whatever the case may be. You could be as negative as you could possibly do. You sit down with for a conversation with Vince Marrow, and he'll make you feel like the only person on the planet, that he loves you to death, that he will do anything for you. He'll make sure that your time here at Kentucky is well worth your while. And that kind of relationship, that family bonding relationship, is stuff that, without question, you just didn't get that kind of stuff in the past. And on top of that, you look at the X's and O's. Yeah. Mark Stoops has built this team up front on the game starts and ends on the offensive line and the defensive line. He has built those up and made sure that those units are stacked from top to bottom, super depth, super deep. Mm-hmm. And then you just kind of, fill individual pieces around them, high-powered offensive pieces, strong safeties, linebackers, but it all starts up front. And, with the run game, we saw with Benny Snell, throughout the years, that is where the on-field success happens, but it starts off the field with guys like Vince Marrow and John Schlarman, and up top with Mark Stoops.
I got to actually meet Vince Marrow one time. I haven't told you guys this story. I went to Parlay Social a couple years ago, and Vince Marrow was in there, and I was like, Yahtzee, when we shook hands. Because it was Vince Marrow. You had to speak to him, right?
Of course.
Oh, it's the big dog, man.
Yeah,
he's a good dude. Personable. He'll talk to anybody.
Yeah.
He's really, really good dude.
He's one of my favorite guests when they bring him on the show, the radio show, the Daily Show. I love it when Vince comes on. It's one of my favorite weeks is the football week. When they have all the football coaches come on and host. I love it when Matt goes on vacation.
Heck yeah. Yeah. Great. I mean, just a great, it's tough to get this kind of like longevity with any coaching staff. I mean, there's attrition every single year. Guys leave, guys get promoted, but the fact that Stoops has been able to stick around this long and keep his right-hand man in Vince Marrow, he's been able to keep John Schlarman, who, that's one of the most underrated coaches in college football. I'm telling you, John Schlarman knows what he's doing. Just, obviously with his off-field stuff going on recently. That's just a dude that you root for more than just about anybody. But the Eddie Grans of the world, those type of people everywhere else in the country, they lose those year after year after year. Mark Stoops has been able to keep those guys around and make sure that continuity is there and make these players feel like from year one to year two they're going to have that coach that recruited them into the program. And that's super super important.
And I thought Eddie Grand, his job last year I thought was unbelievable, because you start out with Terry. And in that game that Terry got hurt, you could see it. Terry was about to blow up. He was going to explode. He looked great, looked smooth, and he looked confident, and he looked like he knew what he was doing. Then he gets hurt, and then you bring Sawyer in, and Sawyer gets hurt, and then you got to go to Lynn. And he changed the offense 3 times, essentially, and we became a run-only team, essentially. Everybody in the place knew exactly what was going to happen. And they ran the same play over and over and over and disguised it 50 different ways. Yep. I thought that was unbelievable. I thought Grant did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, and I was one of those guys that, me not understanding the game of football as much as I should, but starting to get kind of the KSR platform, the KSR followers coming in, and I would say dumb stuff like Eddie Grant needs to get fired, and this was 3-4 years ago. I'd say dumb stuff like that, and people would come at me and be like, "Dude, you have no idea what you're talking about. There's a lot more that goes into it." And the more I've understood what kind of day-to-day, how fast he is at game planning and changing the game plan if things need to be changed, due to injury, due to hey, this obviously isn't working, we got to change things up. That kind of change. We saw what he did at Cincinnati and in the past. He's put up passing yards, and he's adapted his game to elite passing. But we also saw this year that he could put up the best rushing attack in college football if he wants to. That's a guy that we need to be rooting for to stick around for a long time.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like Mitch Barnhart doesn't get the credit he deserves.
The whole administration from top to bottom. You look at basketball, volleyball, baseball, softball, across the board. Mitch Barnhart is he's considered one of the best athletic directors in the nation for a reason. He's the way he's kind of built the whole UK athletics department from top to bottom. Even riflery and the other sports a lot of people don't really talk about. He's made sure that every sport is contending at least somewhat, and that's about all you can ask for out of your AD, I think.
That's true, but how easy would it have been for him to fire Mark Stoops after 2 years? That third year was when we really started turning things around.
It almost happened.
It almost happened.
Yeah,
almost did.
Austin McGinnis's leg saved him.
Yeah.
Kicks that field goal in the Mississippi State game, and
that was it.
That literally may have saved his job.
Yeah, so I think Mitch Barnhart, having the foresight to stick with the guy, let him get his guys in, surround himself with the pedigree of football players that he needs to implement his defenses, to bring in the coaching staff that he needs. Kudos to Mitch Barnhart.
And kudos to Austin McGinnis.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
That's a big leg right there.
Yes, sir. Brad, you have one?
Well, I actually had a more of a writing question for you, but
okay.
Now with technology and everybody's getting all their information in memes and snippets, and we essentially have the attention spans of goldfish now. So have you found that to be a challenge in your writing as far as having to kind of squeeze things in and get to the point to keep people focused?
That is a very, very, very good point. And I mean, it really is frustrating. The reason why it took me so long to get on here is I just published a 2,000 word article on KSR. You'll have to read it, but I pitched to the SEC why UK should host, if they go forward with a bubble, why UK should host the SEC only bubble for college basketball. I mean, very far out there, but it made sense in my head, and I had to convey it in 2,000 words to make it happen. But me personally as a reader, and it kind of sucks seeing the number side of things. I can see what articles get what kind of traffic numbers. You could write the most in-depth, like, you could go to a kid's hometown and interview them and get this like heartfelt recruiting story and how they came from nothing. And like, you could get this incredible story and have it get X number of clicks. And then, Kentucky guy falls on his head while farting, gets 30,000 clicks, and it's just like,
right.
That kind of stuff does make it frustrating in the world of, like you said, memes and the short attention spans and all that. So you do kind of have to kind of reel things in and do value. If there's media out there that you think is funny or it's going to get somebody to laugh or make somebody smile, or the heartfelt quick little 2-minute videos on YouTube, that kind of stuff. I mean, all that stuff, it all kind of works together to kind of create what, KSR is, what these other, Sea of Blue, Go Big Blue Country, those other, UK specific websites. That's kind of what it boils down to. But yeah, it does get frustrating when, you pour your heart into a piece and it doesn't get the attention it needs, because but one time I did get a too long didn't read response on one of my articles, and I was like, wow, that really sucks. Like, that really, really sucks. But it happens, you gotta adapt.
So, I mean, look, I told the story about meeting Jack, and when, I met Jack can't hear me, can he? No,
I can't hear you.
I kind of fanboyed out just a little bit. Like, I knew exactly who he was when he said his name, because I had read his articles. Like, Jack really does. He says that, and I mean, you're on here and I'm going to tell you this, but he really does a good job of you hearing his voice. That's him writing the article. So my question is, do you have a writer at KSR that you really like to read? Somebody that when you see they put something up on the website, that you go and check out what they read?
Well, I mean, I think you got to start at the top. I think Tyler Thompson is one of the best. One of the best. She wrote a Wayne Gabriel article when he was there, that was kind of talking about where he came from and how how he kind of got to where he is today. And I thought it was phenomenal. I mean, you look across the board. I mean, it's starting up top with Tyler, going through Nick and Drew. That Drew puts out about as funny of articles as you could possibly dream of. The X's and O's with Nick. He does a great job with stuff like that. Maggie's phenomenal. She, she's going to get hired to do TV, but she could, if she wants a long-term career doing writing, she could do that as well. Zach Gagan, NBA and, women's basketball, he kills that. So I think from top to bottom, I think the staff overall, I think back in the day, KSR was viewed as, meme quality stuff, only doing stuff to make you laugh, only for entertainment value and all that. And I think while we've kind of gone away from that slightly, we still try to put stuff up that'll make you laugh and be entertaining. But we did hear the complaints that why can't you guys have, be more journalism than X website or X newspaper or, this, whatever medium it is. So that we did listen to that kind of stuff, and we've, valued the good writing and, the crafting long articles and features and stuff like that. But on top of making sure that, we be silly and ridiculous and all that good stuff. So trying to find a happy medium for sure.
So when was it that I know you said you was in college, but was there a specific point in your life or in your time that, you decided, hey man, I'm a pretty good writer. I think I may be able to do this thing. Like, when did that come about? Like, when did that hit you?
So the one moment that made me change my majors, I was already writing for KSR. I was just an intern, and it was I wrote an article on Steven Johnson. It was after the Louisville game. I randomly got his junior college head coach's number. I was on a family trip. I was up to see family in Minnesota. There's nothing to do up in Minnesota. Just very, very boring trip in general. So I was just like, man, I'm looking for stuff to do. I'm trying to, I was like, man, I wonder if I can get in touch with his old JUCO coach. It was right after the big Louisville, comeback victory. Austin McGinnis hits the game-winning field goal, all that good stuff. And I talked to his junior college coach, and he gave me some quotes like, I knew as soon as he stepped onto the field on that last drive after Lamar fumbled that he was going to lead that team down for a victory. And I remember, like, as soon as I got that quote, I was like, that's it. Like that's all I need. And I wrote it. And I remember, like, I was just this random intern. I remember, like, Nick called me and he was like, dude, how'd you do that? How'd you get in contact with this guy? And he was, patting me on the back and hyping me up. And I think Matt went on the radio and was like, dude, you got to read this. It's our intern wrote it. It's a great article and all that. And I think that kind of made me go, okay, I think I got to take this seriously. Like, this could be something that I could end up, getting paid to do and do this, cover games and be there in person. And I think I got to take advantage of this and switch my career path completely. I mean, it was just about as different as you could possibly get, going from special ed to sports writing. So yeah, like I said, I'm very, very thankful that article happened for sure.
Right. No.
Brad, do you have one?
No, go ahead.
Okay, no, I'm ready. I just don't want to hog the show. Last show, Jack, I completely hogged it. We had this guy on that interviewed Jack Kirby, the comic book artist, and like, I completely geeked out on this guy. And I talked the entire podcast. So
He's not lying.
I know I ain't lying. No,
he's not lying. That dude talked.
No, I talked the whole time. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about, something that you just said. You just randomly called up, the high school coach or the coach, and ended up with this interview. Like, because I want to talk a little bit about your podcast, and when you're trying, because you focus a lot in the podcast on recruiting news, right? So like, what's the hustle like as far as trying to get up with these people? Is it just constantly trying to network and get to know people and get in there? Kind of explain that process a little bit.
So I don't know if you've ever seen pictures or videos of EYBL events, like Nike EYBL events that Coach Cal goes to during the summer. It's the summer basketball events. You walk in there and there are legit 10,000 people in one massive convention center basketball facility. I mean, there's like 10 basketball courts, 1,000 people on each court. I mean, it is about, I don't know how they don't break fire code every single year. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. But you go in there and you see all the other recruiting guys that are your competitors indirectly, and they are going up and talking to coaches. They're going up and talking to assistants. They're talking to AAU coaches, trainers, high school coaches that are there, boosters. I mean, there's everybody that you need to know, that you need to be in contact with, are at those events. And when you go there, I mean, it's one of those, you just have to always keep your phone open and be like, hey, put your number in my phone. Hey, can I call you tonight for fill in the blank? Hey, can I grab you for an interview for whatever? A former UK player walk in and be like, oh shoot, I need to interview you real quick. I mean, it's a constant, I gotta always be adding to, my contact list. I gotta always be talking to somebody and making sure that I'm, I don't care as much about the, oh, we were first about this, or, oh, we broke the news on this. I don't care as much about that. I care more about being right and like making sure that long-term, I care more about people knowing, instead of, oh, I got this recruitment right. I want to know what happened in the recruitment to lead up to, Adam Kunkel just committed to Xavier a couple, 2 weeks ago. I was in constant contact with his mentor and trainer. That I went up to go see Dante Allen in person to see how he was looking. And Adam Kunkel just so happened to be there. That trainer told me that he was in talks with UK about potentially being a grad transfer for next year. So I was in constant contact with that trainer / mentor about what's going on. And he was telling me, oh, Kentucky just called me here. Oh, I don't know if things are going to happen here. Oh, there was a little bit moving here. I think we're leaning towards Xavier here. So I thought that I had one of the most complete timelines. I thought at one point he was going to end up at Kentucky. He ended up at Xavier. That kind of stuff happens. But I feel confident knowing that I knew from start to finish where his mind was thinking, what he was thinking about, from start to finish of his short-lived recruitment. That kind of stuff is what, I personally value. But yeah, it all starts with building that contact list and making sure you're always, calling parents and whatever assistant coaches you can get your phone number, whatever phone numbers you can get. It is a constant everyday grind for sure.
So I know you grew up a Kentucky fan, and now you're writing for Kentucky Sports Radio. Like, it's almost a dream come true, I'm sure. But it also sounds like it's also all encompassing. Like, you're always on the phone with the recruits or the mentors or whatever, the family, whatever. Is there anybody is there a coach maybe you like at a different school, or a kid that went to a different school and that made you start following the other school a little bit? Like, you kept up with what they were, their progress, or anything like that ever go on?
Oh, all the time. And in fact, Jalen Green, I adored. Like, I thought he was an awesome basketball player. He would have been a superstar at Kentucky. I'm rooting for him. I was like, man, if he goes to Memphis, I'll be watching every Memphis game because he is must-see TV every time he's on. I mean, I love him to death. But his stepdad he kind of led that recruitment. He and I got pretty close. He would call, he'd call me at because they're out in LA, so he'd give me a call at 11:30 at night and it'd be 8:30 their time, and he'd talk to me and I'd be in bed just chilling, watching TV or whatever, and he'd call me and I'd get out of bed and I'm sitting there talking to him for 30-45 minutes. He's talking to me about the G League and which college coaches are calling him and what's the latest with all that stuff. So I really, really liked him in particular. Love Josh Christopher. I wanted both of those guys to end up at Kentucky. I love them to death. And I mean, in terms of individual recruits, I think Zion Williamson was like one of the nicest kids I've ever talked to. I mean, there was one day, it was my first ever recruiting event that I went to. That was when Emmanuel Quickley was pretty certain. People were pretty certain that he was going to end up at Kentucky, and he was in talks with Zion about teaming up at the next level. And I talked to both of them, and Zion told me, he was like, yeah, we're a package deal. I'm going to be playing with wherever Emmanuel Quickley goes. And I was like, holy crap. Like, that's huge news. Like, we're going to get Zion Williamson. And I remember that obviously changed to the absolute worst possible scenario it could possibly be. But, talking to him, I interviewed him at the Jordan Brand Classic, and I asked him about Tyler Hero, what he thought of his game. He told me that Tyler Hero was the most underrated recruit in the country and thought he was going to be a star at Kentucky. And, just little stuff like that he was always so willing to talk to you. The nice, he didn't care how big you were as a reporter, how small you were as a reporter. He was going to talk to you. I mean, he's just really, really good kid. And I mean, I'm rooting like that. We make fun of him on KSR, and it's kind of a running joke with that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's another kid that I watch every single Pelicans game. I love watching him for obvious reasons. I mean, dude's super talented. But yeah, I think that group of recruits / parents, I think that those have been my favorite so far for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about the podcast. So Jack does a podcast called, was it Sources?
Sources Say podcast. Yeah.
Sources Say, thank you. I just went blank. And that is a recruiting-based podcast. So how did that begin? Because I know when KSR first started, Matt kind of got KSR going, it was based around recruiting a lot. And then it kind of went away from that with the radio show and the other things. Like, how did you get started with the recruiting angle? Was that something that you wanted to do, or was Matt looking to have something like that for KSR?
So we had TJ Walker, who came over from Rivals for a little while. He's only there for like 7 months, 8 months, something like that. So he really, he was the recruiting guy, but he wasn't there a long time at all. So he left, he got a different job, and there was a staff meeting. I was kind of the lead part-time guy, like the one right below full-time. I was right on the cusp of it. And we were in a staff meeting, and Matt said, okay, we have a full-time job opening, and Jack, we want you to take it if you want it. And I was like, holy crap, yeah, of course. And yeah, I mean, without even knowing what the job was, I was like, shoot, whatever it is, I'm all for it. And then he said, yeah, we need a basketball recruiting insider. So that's going to be your job. You're going to be a Kentucky basketball recruiting insider. I was like, what does that even mean? Like, I've never been to a recruiting event in my life. I don't know what this entails. I don't have any contacts in my phone. I don't know anything about this at all. And so, yeah, it was definitely a throw me in with the Sharks, and you got the job, you figure out how to be good at it. So, I'm right out of college, this is my first like big boy job, and it's covering Kentucky basketball recruiting. And it's just like, it's a dream job. Dream scenario. But on the other hand, it's also covering Kentucky basketball and all the crazy fans. And, you get one recruitment wrong and, people want to fire you at the stake. Like, it's a nightmare job, but it's also the best job on the planet. So, it kind of just, always lights a fire under you to never, kind of get in a rut. Like, sometimes with the summer, being in quarantine, not being able to, get out, do normal stuff, you kind of get in those ruts like, oh man, I can't go to these events, I can't talk to these people, and I'm writing the same articles about just nonsense. Like I got to get out there. And then you remember, oh shoot, like I have a job that people dream of having. Like I gotta figure it out. I gotta go on a run. I gotta go get some shots up. I gotta go play basketball. I gotta do something to kind of get my mind off of it. And then I gotta get back to work and remember what they brought me on to do in the first place. So it wasn't easy. It's still not easy. I'm still learning. I'm still building my contact list. And, I've gotten lucky with a couple of them, talking to guys inside the UK basketball program. I've stumbled onto some really close contacts and sources and all that good stuff. And that has kind of cheated my way into being further along that I probably should be is being a year and a half into it. But I'm learning every single day and just trying to keep building that contact list and making fans happy with me.
We understand, man. Trust me. But so have you ever had fans like inspire you to write like article, like maybe an angry fan calls into the podcast or message you, going on about crazy shit, and you're like, you know what, I've got to address this with an article on KSR or something. Like, has that happened, or does it happen often? Or
well, I think there were a couple, especially recently. So Matt Harms was one that the Purdue transfer that ended up going to BYU. Mm-hmm. There was somebody at UK, one of the PR people, wrote a press release for his signing. UK was under the impression that they had gotten him. I think he committed that Thursday. Tuesday during the day, UK had a press release written for his commitment and his signing. And I caught wind of the press release. I saw it. So I was like, okay, so I'm going to go on my show tomorrow. I do my shows on Wednesday night. I went on and I was like, hey, odds are looking pretty likely that Kentucky's getting this kid. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like and Thursday, maybe we recorded that Tuesday night or Wednesday during the day, whatever it was, the night before. So I think we recorded and then, this is what it was. We recorded a pre-show to put out as soon as he commits the next day, breaking down his commitment. We broke down his commitment to Kentucky the night before. We had it pre-recorded to put out whenever it happened. And that night, immediately afterward, I talked to somebody at UK and I was like, hey, just double checking. And he was like, we don't think he's coming here. We think he's now going to BYU probably. And I was like, since when? You guys have a press release written. Like, what's the difference between 24 hours? Yesterday there's a press release written and today you're like, yeah, I don't think he's coming anymore. It's just like, how does that even happen? So that was one that we hyped him up a little bit before the pre-recorded commitment video. We hyped him up the week before, like, yeah, we think odds are pretty good that he's going to end up there. So we ate crow on that one. We had to explain ourselves and be like, well, if you saw the press release, you would think the same thing. So that was a bad one. And then Cade Cunningham was another one that Evan Daniels thought he was going to Kentucky. All the big name guys were. I talked to somebody that was with him on his official visit that said he committed to the staff while he was on his official visit for Big Blue Madness, that he silently committed, that Paolo Banchero was telling people on campus that he was coming and all that stuff. There were a lot of positive vibes in favor of Kentucky after that trip. And of course he's the number one player in the country, so everybody's going to get excited over a little bit of buzz and all that. And again, that was back in October. So I've learned a whole lot since then too. But you hear a little bit of information, you get excited about it, and then you put something out, and sometimes things change. Sometimes you end up being right. But those two in particular were ones that are just like, oh man, I wish I had like another day before I ran my mouth and said, oh yeah, I think this kid's coming. Or, if I had learned just a day earlier about that, the Matt Harms thing, that, that press release wouldn't end up working out and all that stuff, then it'd make me look a whole lot better. But, I'll take a couple losses every once in a while if it means, the grand scheme of things that the overall product's still pretty good.
Have you ever had the flip side of that, where you had the lead and you hesitated, you waited to cut it loose, and then it ended up coming out, and you could have had the big breaking story?
Oh, gosh, as you were saying that, there was one that I thought of, and then I just lost it. Man, Keon Brooks, I knew the night before that he was doing a live show through 24/7 Sports, I think. And the night before, I had heard that from one of the production people over at 24/7 that he was gonna commit to Kentucky the next day. And that was one that I wish I could say, because when sometimes you hear too much, and if you say whatever you did hear, it's very obvious that it came from one individual person. And it makes them look bad, and you can't say that. You'll hear something from inside the Kentucky program, like, yeah, we're not recruiting this kid, we're recruiting this kid, this is one we like. And there's some stuff that you just can't say. You'll hear, oh, I think this kid's getting money on the side, and that's why we're not recruiting this kid. Like, you hear stuff like that you can't go out there and say, that you wish you could just be like, I could shed light on what's going on. But recruitment's like, Jaden McDaniels with Washington. That was another one that he committed to Kentucky. Actually, now that I think about it, there's another one that fits perfectly. But Jaden McDaniels committed to Kentucky behind the scenes, like a week prior to his commitment date. Johnny Juzang committed, and Johnny Juzang is Jaden McDaniels looked at Johnny Juzang and said, I don't want to compete for minutes. Like, before, when I committed to you guys, he wasn't on the roster. Now I'm going to have to compete for minutes with this guy. And so he ended up leaving. So there was a bunch of crystal ball picks and all that stuff in favor of Kentucky. That's the reason. It's because he did commit behind the scenes. But one in particular that I just thought of was actually Johnny Juzang. I was up at the Hoop Hall Classic in January, and I talked to, I think it might have been Jalen Green's stepdad, and he told me that Johnny Juzang had his bags packed already and was transferring. He was going to transfer mid-year, but he was like, "Oh yeah, he has his bags packed already." You probably shouldn't put anything out about that, but yeah, he's gone no matter what. And that was one thing that I was like, man, I wish I could go on and say, like, hey, I wouldn't count on this guy coming back for a second year and stuff like that. But those one of those things that people tell you stuff that you're not allowed to say, but you could tell in situations like this later down the road that what was actually happening. So it works out, but stuff happens.
What are you hearing on Olivier Sarr? Are you hearing anything?
At this point, the UK is looking at that like we all are. They're looking at, Johnny Juzang gets his waiver. All these other random kids are getting their waiver in a timely fashion. They know that they put together a really, really good, case for the NCAA. They know that they've been really lenient on these other kids. And granted, right now is when the NCAA needs to do right by these kids after taking away the NCAA tournament this past year and all the other stuff going on. So the confidence is coming from that. There's not any, the NCAA isn't going to be, whispering to UK along the line saying, hey, we think we're going to grant you eligibility. Hey, we think, so there, there are some guys that have put out like, oh yeah, UK is feeling extremely confident they're going to get it and that things are in the works and all that. And that may be true, but it boils down to their optimism based on just what's going on publicly with everything else, not necessarily like new information about it. It's just they feel good about their case. They think that they put together a solid waiver request and based off of all these other waivers, they think it's going to end up working out in the end for them.
So I want to ask on Brad's questions just a little bit. Like, have you ever been to like a commitment ceremony or where you thought UK does not have a chance of this guy, and then he ends up beating the UK?
Well, Kevin Knox is easily the biggest one. That was the one that I didn't even, I stopped following his recruitment completely, just because, I assumed it was either Duke or UNC. Everybody thought that was the case, and it's just one of those that you're like, whatever. I don't really care to follow it anymore, just because he's not going to end up at UK. But that was one that I think it was Derby Day when he committed. I'm pretty certain that was the case. And I remember I had his tweet notifications on just in case, because I knew he was going to be committing. I was like, might as well, see where he's going at least. And then go figure, he was like, I'm coming BBN or something. And I was like, is there another BBN? Is Duke considered BBN or something? And then I looked at the picture and it said Kentucky. It was like, oh, what are the odds? Isn't that awesome? And I think the only other ones that can kind of pop off my head are Julius Randle was one that he had everybody shaken up on that one. He told everybody behind the scenes that he was going to Kansas, and really he had been committed to Kentucky for like 2-3 weeks at that point. Yeah. And I think Jamal Murray is the other one that was another one that everybody thought he was going to Oregon, and he surprised everybody with UK. So yeah, those have been fun, pleasant surprise. I'll take those all day long over guys that you think are going to Kentucky, and then last second they go elsewhere.
So, Jack, I wanted to ask you, you were in Nashville, right, at the SEC tournament when the whole quarantine thing happened, right?
I was.
So can you give us a little behind, because that was really kind of the genesis of that day, was really kind of the genesis of what where we are now. And I know you guys were down there, I was listening to the radio show and they were like, man, they may cancel the tournament. Can you give us a little behind the scenes of what that was like? Was it just kind of chaotic, or was it just like you're shell shocked because you can't believe what's going on?
So we got there the SEC tournament is like KSR's thing. Like we live, eat, and breathe SEC tournament every single year. We get there Wednesday night or Wednesday afternoon for the first night of games. They have the KSR suite. We go to Jeff Ruby's one of the nights. We go all in when we go down there. We get there Wednesday, don't leave till Sunday. And so we got there Wednesday afternoon, and we're moving in our stuff, and I'm dropping my stuff off, and there's a tweet of some other conference said that they were going to go no fans in the conference tournament. And I remember that was when we were like, oh my gosh, are we going to witness history? Are we going to see a tournament with no fans? Oh my goodness, what is that going to be like? And I remember that was kind of like the talk of the first night. Everybody was like, man, I couldn't even imagine. We got to like 7:00 ish. We were watching that first night of games, and we were up there, and I think, Matt kind of pulled us aside and was like, hey, the more people I've talked to, it's looking like we're going to go no fans moving forward. So, I'd be prepared to, start taking pictures of, what is this, because fans can't be there in the seats, you got to make it look, you got to make them feel like they're there. So put as many videos up, pictures up, try to, make fans feel like they're a part of the action. So that was our big staff meeting the night before. And then about 8:00, 8:30 was when the Rudy Gobert thing happened. And the NBA announced that they were, completely suspending the season until further notice. And then, I think Tom Hanks that night came out, it said that he had it. And there were a bunch of little random people. Oh, this guy has it. Holy crap, this guy has it. What? Donovan Mitchell has it now. It was just it kind of just started spreading like wildfire. And the first night of games ended. Drew and I actually, they had the Champions Club open. We were drinking, Maker's Mark and just kind of sitting there talking. I think we were kind of sitting there this thing's going to get canceled, isn't it? We're witnessing history right now, aren't we? And the very next day we get there, and it was it was super eerie, super ominous. We're just sitting there, and just everything's completely silent. They had already canceled fans moving forward, and then midway through that second day, I believe, that's when they made that final announcement. They were like, yeah, we're ending it. We got to cancel it. So we leave, we pack up our stuff, and we're like, man, what just happened? And then we go sit at the bar at the hotel, and we get the first notification. This other guy cancels, this other conference cancels, all this other stuff is canceled. And then we get we're waiting for the NCAA tweet. The NCAA is about to cancel this whole tournament. And then sure enough, we're sitting there, and it was we're all drinking our sorrows away. Wow, we're witnessing history. Today is a day that we will remember for the rest of our lives. That was just a horrible day. But I mean, it's gonna be one that I tell my grandkids about one day, and I mean that's gonna be a story that I'll have forever. I mean that was a horrible day for sure. Ugh.
I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel like we should hang number 8 for last year myself.
Yeah, number 9. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We can hang 8 again too. We can have Anthony Davis back, whatever. I'm cool with that.
I'm done with that.
Yeah.
So what do you feel about like football going forward? Like I know right now nothing's really been as I coach high school football, and the word's been mum really.
Mm-hmm.
At this point they're saying fans are going to wear a mask, Jimmy Don. But
or are not.
they're definitely wearing masks. If you like, I may go get on staff without one. I don't know. Anyway, so how do you feel about football going forward this fall? Like, what do you think? Do you think it's going to happen? Do you not? SEC, I know it's a money cow. Like, I know a lot of universities are relying on football, to play. They need football to play.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's what it boils down to. I mean, a lot of these, if there is a way to make college football and college basketball work, they're gonna find a way. I mean, I think that the biggest statement I think that we've heard from the NCAA and upper level officials, those type guys, was I think that his name is Jim Gavitt or something like that. He's the NCAA senior vice president, I think, of basketball, and he came out and he said, if there is basketball being played safely anywhere in the world, we're going to find a way to play basketball this year. And I think that quote in itself, I mean, I think that's why we're starting to hear bubble talk and all that stuff. If there is a way to play college basketball, they're going to figure out a way to do it. And I think football is the exact same way. There are so many of these. I mean, we've already seen a bunch of these sports canceled because of what happened already. And I think a lot of these other schools, they can't afford, they've already taken so many hits and are barely staying above water right now. One more hit, I mean, could take out, half of the athletic departments across the country. I mean, it's a make or break year for a lot of these schools. And I think that's the key reason why, I mean, we just have to figure out a way to make it work. I mean, we do. I mean, I know it might sound, stupid of me. And I mean, I know that, it's a controversial take. It's a controversial take for sure. But I mean, it's one of those things that if we don't find a way to make it happen, if they need to play with, the LSU face visors on, make a makeshift, figure out I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm glad I'm not the one making money to make those decisions. But a lot of these athletic departments, they depend on this season in particular. And I think that's why they're just going to have to find a way to make it happen, no matter what, how difficult it may be.
So are you I'm kind of pumped though about 10 SEC games.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I know it's going to be harder.
I ain't trying to interrupt you. We can't play Alabama and Auburn, bro. We're saying no.
Why not?
LSU, is that what you were saying? Is that what it was?
Well, they were saying in the beginning maybe LSU will miss, but I think that was just because they were the next schools up for next year. But I think they kind of went away from that and said they're going to do it based on like a strength of schedule kind of model to determine who we play. But I mean, no. Look, we're going to be good this year. I don't care what anybody says. We're going to be good.
I agree.
And this is it's going to be kind of a weird year anyway. So why not? Let's line it up and go and see how we stack up, because, I mean, I think Terry's going to be on point. You've got great offensive, defensive lines. Our defense is loaded. I heard a guy say today, maybe it was in the SEC or in the nation, we had like the 4th best defensive and offensive lines in the nation.
No, but I don't mean to interrupt you, Jack, but I'm going to say something. Our defensive secondary at the end of the year last year compared to what they were at the beginning of last year was two totally different people, man. And that's a tribute to Mark Stoops and the coaches, the staff he has in place. Those guys really, because Jack, those are 4 new starters in the defensive backfield. Like, for those guys to step up the way they did, man, it was unreal. I'm excited about the future of UK football, man. I really am.
I mean, you look at that secondary group. I mean, Yusuf Corker, Brandon Eccles. I mean, you get Devontae Robinson back. I mean, that's a group right there that makes you feel, just giddy about this year. I mean, I think there are a couple question marks. I think like at wide receiver. I mean, you got to have a couple people step up. I don't know who's going to be the person to step up. We got to get somebody there, and tight end, see if Justin Riggs steps up. And I mean, there are a couple individual position groups, but as a unit, I mean, this is one of the deepest and most talented up top, I think, Kentucky teams we've seen. I mean, obviously 2018 was a special season, and the 10 wins says it all, but I mean, it's going to be a very, very special year. And again, that's part of the reason why we just got to see college football this year. We got to.
You can't speak too highly of the depth we have at running back, which is just insane, man. You don't see that anywhere. I mean, it's crazy what we've done to running back. I'm excited, man. Like, I'm a football guy, so that's
So I know we're getting close on our hour, Jack, and I don't want to hold you too long, but I do want to ask you about the basketball team. I mean, we've talked, football heavy because that's the one that's first up, but the basketball team is going to be loaded too. And if they get SAR eligible, we are a legit national championship contender.
Yeah, I think Olivier Sarr is the difference. I said this on KSR before, but I think Olivier Sarr is the difference between this being a championship Final Four level team and being like that Tyler Ulis, Marcus Lee, Jamal Murray team where it was like they're going to be, the guards are absolutely elite, but up front, what are you going to get? Are you going to get anything up front from the guys down there? And I truly think Sarr is the difference between a Final Four and a Sweet 16 round of 32 type team. I really think he's that special and that big of a difference maker on this group. But I mean, when you look at the roster, Terrence Clark up top, heard awesome things about him so far. I think he's going to be a star. BJ Boston, I'm as big of a fan of BJ Boston as anybody in the country. I'm all in on BJ Boston. I think he's going to be a very, very special guy. We just got to see who'll step up between Devin Askew and Davion Mintz. Those are the two big, that's kind of the other what if. We got to get somebody to step up at point guard, but the rest of the roster, I mean, especially those two wing positions, shooting guard and small forward, I mean, you got about as good as you can get in the country. So when you have that and hopefully and likely you get a guy like Olivier Sarr, you got three superstar talents on the roster. Keon Brooks, I've heard he looks awesome, built up, building confidence. Sky. I mean, truly the sky is the limit for this team for sure.
So I have a statement and a question. One, I've got really good buzz. And two, so you're watching TV. This is the important question, Jimmy.
Well, I was getting ready to lead him into that. So, Jack,
No, they ain't no leading nothing, no.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can't lead nobody, bro. That's how this works.
I can try.
Right. So you're at home with your family. You're sitting around watching TV. And on one channel, you have Little Mermaid, which is a really good movie, right?
Great movie. Yeah. I can sing every song from that movie.
Oh, my God. Never mind.
Ask the question, fool.
What's the question?
But on the other channel is Aladdin.
Ooh, okay.
So which one you watching? You got the remote. Like you're deciding which one you're watching. You watching Little Mermaid? You watching Aladdin?
So I'll have to cheat on this answer because just like 2 days ago, my wife said, "Hey, we haven't seen Aladdin in a long time. I'd really like to see that movie with you." So because that is what she wants to watch currently, I know for brownie points that Aladdin is going to be the answer to that choice.
Jack. I can't do a Jay's down. Jay's down for Jack. I can't do a Jay's down for Jack.
I'm not hating on either. I'm not hating on either movie. I'm a big Disney guy. I got you. I like I said, I can sing you the whole track list of Little Mermaid if you want me to. I got you.
We can duet.
Jay,
we got you.
Man, I really had a good time.
Yeah.
Hey, I do want to say, JD, happy birthday.
Oh yeah, happy birthday, JD.
Happy birthday, JD. Hey, and it's his 41st, right?
Yeah. I made 41.
And he's a bachelor, and I'm wondering if there's any chance that he's going to get an extra year of eligibility. Because once you hit that 40, it kind of turns into dog years. You know what I mean? You start losing them pretty fast. So
I got, bro. You know what I'm
saying? So, Jack, I do want to leave you with kind of a serious question and just kind of finish this off here. Because we'll have a lot of young folks here where we live watch this, and who may have an interest in sports writing or sports in general. Do you have any advice for the young person that's looking to maybe get into this field?
I would say that there are going to be a lot of reasons why people tell you not to. If you go into like broadcast journalism, I mean, to be totally honest, the money in that, I mean, I got lucky with where I got from day one, and money's good on my end. Like I'm personally good, but I saw the numbers as a normal broadcast journalist who's just dying to, somebody being in, like a sports journalist. Money to start out with is something that you'll look at it and go, shoot, forget that. I'm going to be a salesman. I'm going to go, sell insurance. I'm going to go do something. I mean, when you see those first numbers, I mean, we're talking like $20,000 a year right out of college for a lot of the broadcast journalist guys. And that is going to scare a lot of people away. But if you have a passion for this, you got to think of what can you do? You could get any job that you want 5, 10, 20 years down the road if, your big sports dreams don't work out. But if you have a passion for this, if you're a diehard sports fan, diehard Kentucky fan, whatever that may be, you will look back at the end of the day and think, man, I really wish I got to go to that Kentucky game. Man, what if I got to go cover that team? Or what if I got to go interview that coach? Like, I look at, there was one moment I got to cover the Jordan Brand Classic up in New York City. And I got credentialed to a New York Knicks game. After the game, I walked down to Madison Square Garden and I walked out onto the floor and I got a picture taken of me. And I was just like kind of looking around. I was like, this is so stupid. I'm like, how is this even like a real life thing right now? Like, and that's one thing that if you're young, and I mean, shoot, anybody, if you have a passion for it, I mean, you will look back at the end of the day and think, man, that's the way I thought it myself when I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. And I was like, man, I don't know what feeling is on money wise. I don't know what this could potentially get to, maybe I become Matt Jones, or maybe I'll become another, one of the big name media guys. But, what is this baseline future for me? What does that hold? And I was like, man, if I quit now, or if I left early, whatever the case may be, I will look back and I'll never forgive myself. I'll be able to, I always want to be able to say that I did this, or, tell stories about random stupid recruitments and, random games that I got to go to, random road trips that I went on, all that little stuff adds up to just lifelong memories that I promise you, if you have a passion for it the way I did growing up and as a kid, wearing that same, UK jersey with a UK hat, watching it in your living room, like I all in on it. Go for it. I
awesome.
couldn't support you more.
Great answer, man. That's a great way to end it. So Jack, where can we find you? I'm sorry, go ahead.
What's the podcast?
Oh yeah, that's where I was getting to. Sources Say Podcast.
You can find me on Twitter. Twitter at Jack Pilgrim KSR. Reach out to me, there via email, jpilgrim@KentuckySportsRadio.com. I'll talk to anybody and everybody. I'm easy to talk to. If you ever need me for any questions, I got you. And find my work on Kentucky Sports Radio.
Awesome, man. Jack is a great read. He really is. I'm not just saying that. It really is, because I knew exactly who he was before I met him, and he's a great read on the website. The Sources Says podcast is great. Sources Say podcast is great. I listen to it usually on my trip at some point back and forth to work during the week, and you'll enjoy Jack. You won't go wrong there.
I wouldn't know Jack, like your face, you know what I'm saying? But I know. On the KSR website and I pull your name up, I know I'm going to read a good article. And that's sincere.
Well, thank you.
Not because you're on here, but that's for real. Like, I really enjoy your articles, man. Keep doing what you're doing. That's it.
Cool. I appreciate that.
So
thank
we'll
you.
end it here. Jack, thank you so much for coming on, dude. I had an absolute ball, and I know we all did. So you can check us out, of course, on the Sunday episode. We'll be live on YouTube. And, of course, you can find the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and of course we're all over social media, all the different places on social media. So as we always end our show, from myself, from JD, from Brad, and today Jack, no matter how bad your week's been, no matter how bad your day's going, if you just add bourbon, it always gets a little bit better. Thanks, guys. We'll see y'all on Sunday.
Amen.